The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
A Game 7 win over Denver.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Oklahoma City Thunder getting a Game 7 win in the Paycom Center to advance to their first Western Conference Finals since 2016 over the Denver Nuggets, just as we predicted before the series began. This was an impressive game from OKC, because it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows despite the end result. When you watch the beginning of this first quarter, it kind of looked like the nightmare scenario. I mean, Aaron Gordon had an and one bucket to put them up 11, and Aaron Gordon had been toughing it out through this grade 2 hamstring injury that I have no idea how he played through, and you tip your cap to him for playing through that injury, just like you do Michael Porter Jr., just like you do this whole beat-up Nuggets team. But the Nuggets were the team that was bringing the level of intensity needed to win a Game 7. They were just amazing on the glass, outworking Oklahoma City. They were hitting more shots than the Thunder were. The Thunder could not hit wide open threes. And again, losing those hustle points, at the start of this game to get down 11 with the defensive lapses of like backdoor cuts and second chance points and all the different ways that Denver was creating that lead. You thought, okay, well, here it is. This is a young team, and you kind of know which way this game is trending. And then the Thunder settled in and showed you great maturity. They showed you who they've been all year. All year, this team has been an anomaly. This team has done things that young teams are not supposed to do. This team has been a historically great defense, and all those things bared out in this game because the Thunder had a great close to the first quarter to trim that lead down to 5. And then the Thunder make an adjustment, leaving Shea in the game to start the second quarter and take the lead for the first time at the start of the second quarter, and then put Shea back on the bench to steal him some rest, which I thought was a masterful job by Mark. We'll talk more about that coming up. But after the Thunder get control of this lead, that was all she wrote. There was a couple more ties in there, but past that, it was Oklahoma City who ends up getting the extension of the lead heading into halftime, up double digits, and then blew this game out of the water at one point, going up by 43 points, but maintaining vast control of this game from the third quarter on, even though Nikola Jokic plays the entire third quarter and Nikola Jokic fought his guts out, but the Thunder were able to really make life hard on him. He took 9 total shot attempts. The best player in the world in a Game 7 took 9 total shot attempts with 11 free throws to boot to tally up to a 20-point outing, which is not what you expect Jokic to do in a Game 7, not to mention his 5 turnovers. He had 7 assists and he had 9 rebounds. So Jokic was just not granted opportunities in this game because of the Thunder's defense. And this is where it all starts. How do you correct a laboring half-court offense in the midst of the postseason? You can't go make roster moves. You can't completely overhaul your identity. You can make minor tweaks, but you can also just don't play half-court offense. Get out and run. Get out in transition. And that's what Oklahoma City was able to do because they were tight in the rebounding category. And we mentioned how they started out so poorly in that category, but they end up 47-44 in Denver's favor. And they were wide in the turnover category, where the Denver Nuggets turned it over 22 times in a Game 7 to Oklahoma City's 9. And the Thunder were able to get out and run with 27 fast break points. The Thunder regrouped on the second chance points, which was Denver's way early, ends up 19-14. And the Thunder dominate points in the paint, 64-42. A lot of that in transition, but a lot of that was the minor tweaks we talked about with the half-court offense of SGA and Jalen Williams and these guys playing with more offensive force at the rim and really attacking Denver and going up stronger and being able to finish around the rim better in a series that they've had some struggles finishing around the rim, and the Thunder were able to do just that. I thought that their ability to respond to a lapse to start the game showed you great growth, and it shows you why this team continues to buck the trends. The Thunder held Denver to shooting 39% from the floor, 22% from three, and 77% from the free throw line, while OKC shot 49% from the floor, 30% from three, and 79% from the free throw line. Why was Nikola Jokic denied the basketball? Why did Nikola Jokic only shoot one field goal attempt in the 12 minutes he played in the third quarter? Because he quite literally could not get the ball. The best player in the world could not get the ball because as he went through this series, and this has not been a banner series for Nikola Jokic. He's had a loud game 1, a loud game 5, both in losses. He's been game 6 was awesome for him. He's been able to get to the box score that you want from him, but it's been a really tough track to get there. His most efficient nights, in my opinion, were game 5 and game 6, deeper in this series, as he figured out the Thunder's double big lineup, as he figured out the J. Will curveball. And in game 7, as he's in game 6, the most comfortable he's been all series, in my opinion, in game 5 as well. Game 7, the Thunder go to a heavy dose of Alex Caruso. And Alex Caruso lived inside Nikola Jokic's jersey. He just never let Nikola Jokic touch the basketball. Yes, he was all over him. Yes, he was smothering him. Yes, he was swatting at him. Yes, he was frustrating him. No complaints over here. I mean, that's the way you have to play. That's the way that it takes to win a game 7. And the Thunder being able to harass him at the catch point is what's been able to turn in these blowout wins. What did we talk about after game 2 and now after game 7? Is that style of play against Jokic sustainable? No. But why is it not sustainable? People are going to talk about how the Thunder have figured out Jokic. They have not. The Thunder have gotten the benefit of, you got 2 blowout wins in this series because 2 different officiating crews had different lines, a line of demarcation of what constitutes a foul and not when you're contesting for the basketball on entry passes. And that's the big difference. If you have to stop Jokic, you have to have the combination of the two. You have to have the players who are willing to put their bodies on the line and play extremely physical with this giant, like you have in Kaysen, like you have in Caruso, like you have in J-Dub, like you have in J-Will, who didn't get to play today, but still has been that all series. You have to have that, and you have to have an officiating crew who's not going to call every ticky-tack foul. And that's what the Thunder got the benefit of tonight, and that's out of their control. All they can control is the physicality of which they play with. And if it would have backfired on them, it would have backfired on them. But this officiating crew saw it differently. And so, yes, they hounded the ever-loving crap out of Nikola Jokic, and you could call 1 or 2 plays a different way. But ultimately, that's the only solace Denver can take, is that maybe Caruso accidentally swatted Jokic on the wrist and it would have been a foul away from the basket. Okay, sure. But guess what? The Thunder put him in jail, locked him up, and won game 7. I mean, it's all over but the crying in Denver. And they've cried all series long, and this is a 68-win team with a historically great defense that went out and won this game. That's what it is. They went out and took this game because you weren't saying anything when the lead was 11. You weren't saying anything before Alex Caruso got into the ball game, and Alex Caruso gets in there and he makes change happen. So don't give me this stuff about Caruso wasn't effective on Jokic. He absolutely was. Do 29 other teams or 28 other teams have Caruso? No. Did 28 other teams have guards to play underneath and physically and stand up to him trying to back you down the way the Thunder do? Absolutely not. That's what makes the Thunder such a unique matchup for Jokic specifically. Does that mean it's sustainable? It is not, because you get into an area where you either give away fouls and thus can't play that aggressively, or refs call ticky-tack stuff and you can't play that aggressively. It's the same thing as game 2. You never apologize for winning. You never apologize for stuff out of your control. It's not in your control of how the refs dictated this game. You went and forced the issue. You went and forced the refs to not call it that way by setting a tone of physicality. And that's what you want in the sport of basketball. You want physical play until it happens against your favorite team. Then all of a sudden, you want ticky-tack calls. This is just what life is. The life is, when you play against the Thunder for 48 minutes, you are going to be harassed. You are going to be just absolutely punked defensively. I mean, they are going to make your life just miserable. And they're going to get foul calls. They fouled a lot tonight, and they were called for 19 fouls. Denver got to the line for 22 free throws in a game in which they just outright quit. A game that they outright quit in a game 7. Because like we said, one field goal attempt from Nikola Jokic in the third quarter. You just could not get the ball. But you look at the first half, and it was 16 free throws to 5 for Denver. So the free throw thing got tighter because the game was a nothing burger. But when the game was in the balance, Thunder got called for a lot of fouls. Thunder didn't care. Thunder still made the best of their opportunities. And Alex Caruso deserves a lot of credit for how he defended Nikola Jokic. And that's the best player in the world. And that's a guy who you cannot stop. You need a lot of luck to go your way to stop him. And you need a lot of luck in general to win a championship. That's why I've always been against title or bust being the line for success. Because at the end of the day, you need a lot of luck. What happens if Aaron Gordon is healthy in this game? What happens if MPJ is healthy this whole series? We'll never know. We'll never know. You can cry about it. You can write songs about it. You can do podcasts about it. You can write articles about it. We're never going to know. What happens last year if the East is healthy? We're never going to know. What do we do know? The Boston Celtics are NBA champions from last season. What do we do know about this series? The Thunder won this series in 7 games. That's all we know. And the Thunder did it by going out and taking this Game 7 at home against the championship battle-tested Nuggets team, their first ever win against a competent, quality playoff opponent. And they got it in a big Game 7.
The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes it easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. There's so many ways to bet your favorite props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
The Panthers with a dominant performance in Game 7 in Toronto.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers.
The Florida Panthers defeat the Toronto Maple Leafs by a final score of 6-1 in Game 7 to advance to the Eastern Conference Final. Well, they will be playing the Carolina Hurricanes in a rematch of the 2023 Eastern Conference Final. But Dave, I want to start off this show by discussing the mindset of the Florida Panthers. Even in Game 7, the Panthers had an optional skate. A lot of the guys weren't on the ice, but just the spirits of the Panthers, I felt that they were in good hands starting from the morning skate. I was nervous right before Game 7. I usually when they're not facing elimination, I'm usually calm during games. But the nerves started to start going. I had 4 cups of coffee today on a day like this, but Matthew Tkachuk saying their game is built for a Game 7. Brad Marchand talking about how these are the games that you remember, and man, did the Florida Panthers deliver.
Well, if there's anything we've learned about this team is elimination games on the road, they don't care. That's where they live.
Mm-hmm.
They've done it to Boston. They've done it to Toronto. I think they've done it to Tampa, I think 2 years in a row. So yeah, they don't care. That's their mindset is it doesn't matter. They actually seem to be better on the road, this last couple of years. I don't know exactly what the record is, but I would imagine it's pretty comparable, which is kind of insane when you think about it, because considering they're playing good teams on the road. But the only thing that I kept thinking of is after the Leafs played so good and they played, they kind of played almost like the Panthers did in Game 6, and you get to Game 7 and things start rolling the Panthers' way, like immediately off the first face-off. I think of The Dark Knight Rises, where Bane says, you think the darkness is your ally, you adopted it. I was born in it, and I think like that type of muddy hockey is the Panthers' bread and butter, and it's not the Leafs' bread and butter. They can do it occasionally, but certainly not for 2 games in a row, and it was pretty evident, even though second half of the first period was better for the Leafs, but they were on them from the go, and then you're like, I kind of relaxed a little bit. Although as a Liverpool fan, I did get worried. All those shots on goal and nothing, and I'm used to seeing that with Liverpool, and then all of a sudden the team gets one shot and they're down 1-0. Didn't happen here. Bob was fantastic, especially in that first period when he needed to be, and after the first period, it was academic, right?
No doubt. And the first 25 shot attempts belong to the Panthers. The Leafs lines were having a hard time just clearing the end. There were multiple 1+ minute shifts by the Tavares line. And the fact that the Panthers in the latter part of the first period with the Leafs. Multiple breakaway opportunities by the fourth line. It wasn't the Matthews, it wasn't the Nylanders, it wasn't the Marners. It was the Lorentzes and the Scott Laughtons that were getting on their breakaway opportunity. Great backtrack, by the way, by Eetu Luostarinen very early on in the game for the Panthers to just to still prevent them from taking the early lead. So that's another thing for the Panthers that was just outstanding with their ability to just keep things afloat. And even Anson Carter, after the first period, was talking. They were asking him, how do you feel if you're the Florida Panthers with dominating the first 12 minutes? Their first shot against was 8:23 left in the first period. And Anson Carter was talking about, if you're another team, you're worried, but not the defending Stanley Cup champions. And he said, this is exactly where the Panthers want to be. Yeah, there were 7 straight shots on goal for the Panthers. The Panthers only had one power play, and there was only one power play to begin with the too many men on the ice for the Panthers. And now things started to like maybe shift a little bit towards the end of the first period for the Panthers. But really, it all started with the fact that the Panthers were able to weather that storm. And then once the second period happened, which is the period that you have to be careful with your changes and preventing the odd man rushes. The Panthers were very crisp in the neutral zone. They played more of that north-south hockey connecting, and more importantly, they got in front of the net, which, I mean, you think about the awareness of Evan Rodriguez seeing Seth Jones up into play, thinking that the pass was going to be to Reinhart, and then he beats Joseph Wall on the far side. Brad Marchand getting in on the forecheck, getting in on the forecheck as well, driving to the lane. Panthers retrieve the puck, that POP, and then Anton Lundell is able to convert. Which Anton Lundell, thankfully, he's okay. He left us at the end of the second period, returned for the third, and then that, and then for the Panthers there, the fact that Seth Jones, a high IQ play, does not touch the puck before Jonah Gadjevich gets back to the blue line, because in that situation, it would have been offside. It was reminiscent to the Cale Makar play that happened during the playoffs just a few years ago for the Colorado Avalanche, and then a high IQ play. I mean, the trade acquisitions that Bill Zito made, they came to play tonight, and it proved why you go out there and get those guys. Andrew Imber, public address announcer, tweeted, "This is why you take advantage when you're in a cup window and say screw them picks," like the Los Angeles Rams motto.
Absolutely. And what Marchand has done to that third line has made it as dangerous as the first or second line, and that was huge. I was a little bit skeptical because he was hurt when he first came in, and you're wondering, is he going to get enough time? I know he's a little bit older, but that was silly thinking by me. He's Brad Marchand. He immediately steps up, and again, now there's 3 genuine scoring lines, and even the fourth line tonight, we get, Gadjevich gets one. And then Seth Jones, this is what a great series for Seth Jones, at least after the first 2 games. Just dominating effort, worth whatever you gave up for him. If you've got a cup window, you go all in on it. Picks and all this. Colorado can learn a lesson. They were worried about Rantanen leaving, and they couldn't re-sign him, so they trade him all over the place. They could have used him. They could have used him. But what can you say about Bill Zito? The last 3 years, what he's done with this club. Third straight Eastern Conference Final. Think about it. Third straight. The Panthers are in the Eastern Conference Final for the third straight year. 5 years ago, they put you in a straitjacket and put you away. Yeah. And here it is. And he's everything. He seems every time he pulls that slot machine, it's coming up all the cherries across, and it's paying off.
The Jim Gregory Award gets voted after the second round. This has to be his year to win it. By the way, this has to be for him. And for the Panthers, just their ability to to always just have their focus level on the task at hand. I mean, we spoke about how the second period is the period that you have to be careful when it comes to giving up rushes and being crisp on your changes. And the fact that the fact is the Panthers gave up a goal when it was the third period, an odd period for them, getting a full line change, not getting it all the way, and then how quick they were able to respond, not even a minute later for the Panthers. Exactly 47 seconds later with that goal by Eetu Luostarinen, Panthers get the puck deep, and then Brad Marchand shoots from the half wall, and then Etulis-Turenin deflects the puck in, which Etulis-Turenin, I spoke about this on the Locked On NHL show. He was such an unsung hero for the Panthers. Had a great game 6, was throwing the body around, stripping pucks, had the primary assist to Anton Lundell. It's funny because the 5th goal, they didn't show the 5th goal. I was confused. I'm like, oh wait, the Panthers scored, and then it like just everyone contributing. I didn't mention this on a few shows ago, but the Panthers, there had 17 different goal scorers for the Panthers, and that hadn't been done since 1993. I know there wasn't a new goal scorer tonight, but just you look up and down, it's six different goal scorers tonight for the Panthers. It's just coming in waves, and then if it's not one line getting the pucks in deep, it's another. If it's not one pair closing the gaps, it's another pair that's closing the gaps. And I just think it was just once again a complete team effort, and it just goes through the old saying, it's the champs until it isn't. It's the Florida Panthers until it isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Game 7, these guys say, okay, we've done this. We've done this in Boston against the greatest regular season team of all time. No worries. If we could do it there, we could do it anywhere. And the whole, to borrow a cliche, the ice was tilted towards Wall the whole night. Whole night. Every time you looked at, and then like the elongated shifts, guys are winning board battles and keeping the puck in the zone, even when they're not scoring. But when you're up 4-1, then 5-1, at that point you just kill the clock, and that's what they did. They, played a little bit of keep away. Toronto had a couple of, I think they ended up with around 20 shots. It seems like 15 too many, because other than Domi's goal, I don't think they really had a whole lot of dangerous chances after the first. But again, Game 7, these guys, this is where they live.
Yeah. To think that there could have been another goal if it wasn't for the gluteus maximus of Brandon Carlo there, which kind of reminded me of that part in, well, now this ride no longer exists, Shrek 4D, where Shrek lands on top of the dragon and he farts in front of the dragon in front of him. And there, so a little bit of a throwback as now it's been replaced with Despicable Me, Minion Mayhem, and also how well they protected the puck in front of Sergei Bobrovsky. Anton Lundell had a skate save as well before the puck could get in on Sergei Bobrovsky on William Nylander. That was a big moment in the game as well for the Panthers. So just outstanding performance, just a full 60, not necessarily a full 60-minute, but at least for the most part, it was at least 50 plus minutes of great hockey for the Panthers that just were able to just get in Joseph Wall's kitchen. It was more than half of their goals coming because the fact that they had a net front presence. The Leafs were very spread out. I mean, on one of the goals, especially the Gadjevich goal, Morgan Riley is drawing and then loses Jonah Gadjevich there. So once again, it's exposing the bottom pair of the Leafs. And to think that how many blocks they had at the beginning is like, oh man, is it going to be one of those games? It ended up not being one of those. So thankfully the Panthers were able to pull it off.
The Dallas Stars are going back to the Western Conference Finals.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars.
What a series clincher. What a win for the Stars, and proving and advancing to the Western Conference Final in 3 straight seasons is nothing to scoff at. So congrats to Jim Nill for what he's done here.
Yeah. Truly amazing that's happening. It really is when you think about it. 3 straight years of Western Conference championship appearances. I mean, you always obviously want to get over the hump at some point, but at the same time, I mean, that is something that I think Pete DeBoer, Jim Nill should take a step back and realize, wow, this is not easy to do, specifically when you look at the gauntlet that they've gone through in these years. Yeah. And I think this year is as comparable as last year. I mean, you did have the Stanley Cup champions and the Stanley Cup champions the prior year, but Colorado and then the President's Cup trophy winner in Winnipeg, 2 heck of a teams. I was saying the other day, and let's start with this, Joey. I think that the Central Division can be at a disadvantage when it comes to this. I mean, I know you have to play who's in front of you, but at the same time, there's a little bit of a difference between where Vegas is and the LA Kings compared to, I mean, look at what Winnipeg had to go through as well. They went to 7 with the hottest team in the NHL in St. Louis. Then, here's the Dallas Stars. So I feel as though Edmonton might be a little bit more fresh heading into this series.
Yeah, they probably are, and they were last year for the most part. I think everybody echoed the sentiment that Dallas had the rougher road to get to the Western Conference Final, and even Minnesota. Look at the fight they gave Vegas in that first round, because they were finally healthy. They finally got everybody back, and they took them to the brink, and frankly, probably should have won if they were a bit cleaner throughout the series. But I thought Minnesota was the better team for large chunks of that series too. Just really dominating, physical, fast, hard hockey games in this division. And every single series that featured 2 Central Division opponents really lived up to the hype. And I think this one here did tonight. It was just such an awesome game. And of course it helps the Stars win, but it finally felt like both teams were throwing their best punches tonight.
Yes.
Because in the first 5 games, it just felt like one team kind of had the edge for the majority of each of those games. But tonight it was just back and forth. It's anxiety inducing watching them go up and down the rink, and Otter was fantastic. It was good to see Hellebuck have a good game. I know we don't want him to be lights out against Dallas, but it's good for the product, and it's good for the entertainment of a series. And he was really, really good tonight. The Stars were as well. And they find a way to just push through. They find a way to survive in advance. And I think you have to give Dallas a lot of credit for doing that, because this is not the same team we saw a year ago. It's not even the same team 3 months ago, with all the injections into the lineup at the trade deadline. And they've just found a way to get it to come together, I guess, at the right points. And this melting pot of all these different personalities and different dilemmas. I mean, the last month of the season was just awful, and they've just sort of flipped the switch. And Pete DeBoer deserves a lot of credit for that. He deserves so much credit for what Dallas has done under his tenure. It's remarkable. And once again, I think he coached a really fantastic series. He jumbled the lines a bit once again here tonight, and he pushed the right buttons, and the Stars get it done on home ice.
Yeah, specifically after the game, you're on this like amazing high, and then they pan to Mark Scheifele, and there are so many of us that are involved in sports or in just in life when your dad has been crucial in what you've been able to accomplish. And I can't comprehend losing a father and then losing a series. I mean, so many, you see hockey players after they lose a series and how they break down. Nikolai Ehlers after the game breaking down, probably knowing this could be, possibly the end of his run in Winnipeg.
Correct.
So, I just wanted to, we're celebrating. This is awesome. And I'm not trying to, bring us down, but at the same time, you just have to feel. And it was really good to see, once the game is over, the embrace of Jamie Benn and Mark Scheifele. I think that was needed. And obviously Tyler Seguin has a close relationship with Mark Scheifele, and they embraced for a while as well. It was great to see Connor Hellebuck and Jake Ottinger having a conversation. And the other thing is when these team handshakes happen, I'm always reminded of the respect that Pete DeBoer has for the opposing team, in that players truly want to shake his hand and just spend a moment with him. That's why he was an assistant coach with the Four Nations. And that's why, he gets jobs. He's well respected in NHL circles.
Yeah, hockey is just a beautiful game, right, Gavin? That's why we talk about it as much as we do, and why we talk about it with so much passion, because I don't think there's any other sport in the entire world where their players and coaches have as much respect for one another as this game did. And first off, thoughts and prayers with the Scheifele family. That is just completely awful. I can't imagine having to go play a game after hearing news like that, let alone in an elimination game. I think he made his dad proud. I think he really did. He was excellent. And I know he was in the box. I know, but I think most teams would have taken that penalty. Otherwise, the breakaway. I think you take that penalty, and sometimes you have to live with those consequences. And it stinks that he was in the box for that. And I'm sure that's eating him up a bit to some degree. But it certainly was an emotional scene for him, and the handshake line, of course. And it was nice to see just the respect between Ben and Scheifele, of course, who got into it earlier in the series. But man, I just felt awful for him, and credit to him for playing, because no one would have batted an eye if he just said, I just can't go tonight. And he did. And of course, he scores a goal. It just felt right. And great job by him. And just great job by everybody involved. For what it seemed like, I didn't see the first two periods, but it seemed like ESPN touched on it quite a bit, and they did an excellent job. And it always reminds you, it's like, we play a really freaking fun game, and we get so into it sometimes, but those are always cool moments, whether the result was a win or loss for him.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. Track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
It is time for Pacers Knicks.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast.
And I'm looking forward to, Tony, a series I think we both think is going to be even better than last year's 7-game slugfest.
Both teams are better, right? And last year's was obviously headlined by some non-basketball things on the Knicks side. Unfortunately, this year, both healthy, both feeling better. Both of these teams, the last time they made the finals, guess who they beat? The team they're currently playing in the conference finals.
Yeah.
Two guys who have this like WWE fake beef thing, even though they're really friends, thing going on that'll be really fun. I can't wait. It's like perfect. For anyone older than like 25, this is like a perfect series.
Yeah, it is incredibly exciting. And I think tactically, again, somehow even more interesting than last year. And I thought last year was pretty fun, but we're going to start off talking about our respective teams. I want to know what exactly clicked for Indiana as they dismantle the Bucks, they dismantle the Cavs. They seem to have some of that same late game magic the Knicks do, where both these teams are putting up comebacks like we've never seen in NBA history and doing it multiple times. When I talked to you in the regular season, you told me that you weren't sure if this year's group had as high of a ceiling because the defense was better, the offense wasn't quite as good, and that may be translated to more consistency, but maybe not an ability, we both presumed, to go out and dominate a team like Cleveland as they did. Was that series more about what Cleveland didn't do and their injury issues and their lack of shooting? I know Indiana as a team is shooting 40% from three in the playoffs. Is it just hot shooting? Or has a team that since January 1st has been a top 5 team in the NBA played like that and perhaps even better heading into these playoffs?
Yeah, that's it. It says like that. I was not concerned, but I wondered if their offense could get to last year's levels. And guess what? They have the best offensive rating in the playoffs of any team that's still playing. They're back to that, right? And so forget what I said in whatever time we said that. Yeah. Like they're just scoring so well. And like the signs that this was possible were very obvious, right? They had a top 5 effective field goal percentage this season, despite having like a miserable first 25 games.
they generate and make good shots. They have shot makers on the team from like any level of the floor. It's just at times this season, even when they were playing their best, like winning all these clutch games late in the season, it was like, hey, should you really be going to crunch time against the Brooklyn Nets twice in a week? Like, but it was still there that they could score. And so when they like really dial into an opponent and they can figure out how these coverages evolve throughout a series and they can problem solve, they're just so hard to guard for a 7-game series. Even when they lose, Joe Mazzulla's like, yeah, that was the hardest team we played this year. It's like, this is what they can do in this setting. And here they are again, like you said, top 4 or 5 record since January 1st. And they just ran through a 64-win team because they can score so easily that they set the pace in the terms of engagement on defense, and their defense is better than last year. So that helps too. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this team is like really good, really good.
I think that problem solving, maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more. Second segment, and we'll touch on a third segment. That is my biggest concern for the Knicks in this series. A team that looked incredibly locked in Game 6 against the Celtics and for quarters and halves against the Celtics. And outside of that has been pretty miserable just in terms of like nailing their own defensive scheme. And I think that could just kill them against the Pacers. But for now, I want to know a little bit about Tyrese Halliburton. Obviously, he comes into this series in a very different place than he did last year, where like that injury was still potentially bothering him. He had a very weird second half of the season, 2023, 2024. Somewhat weird start to this year where our guy Matt George was posting revenge graphics and talking about how much better De'Aaron Fox is than him. And lo and behold, Halliburton figures it out second half of the year, seems to be fully healthy, seems, as far as I can tell, to be playing the best basketball of his life, maybe the most underappreciated superstar in the league, and not someone I expect to come out and put out like a 6-point stinker like he did early in that series a year ago. What is new with Tyrese Halliburton this year, especially relative to that series last season?
Yeah, he now has as many conference finals since 2024 as the Kings franchise, so I don't think those graphics will last much longer. Yeah, really good player. You know, the thing, like last year he dealt with all the things that you talked about with the injuries and stuff, but what he actually dealt with as he ascended to All-NBA status from like, you know, back-end all-star was teams started to change their defenses to guard him and like make it hard for him to do the things he's good at. Around Christmas time, it was here's all these blitzes and traps, and then you know, it evolved when they changed their starting 5 to this and that, and you know, the pick and roll coverage just changed. So you'd have like pockets of the season in 2023-24 where he wasn't quite as good, and then he'd figure out what that looked like, and he'd be better coming out on the other side. And so last year, game 1 against the Bucks, not very awesome. Game 1 against the Knicks, not awesome. And it's like this huge story about, you know, it's the wrong word to use, but people say be aggressive. Like, it's not about aggressive for him. It's about his reads of a defense and getting into the paint. Regardless of my own opinions on that, you know, he like worked through a coverage or worked through, okay, here's what this team is doing. Here's how I do what I do best to beat it. Right. That was like the evolution of his game. And so now this year, he started the season dealing with these injuries and wasn't playing very well, and it was a huge story. But once he got healthy, now he's seen all this, right? Mm-hmm. He's seen every coverage. His team is exactly the same as last year. So they collectively have seen how he responds to those coverages and gets them open. And so it's not as easy for him to be slowed down, one, and it's not as challenging for him to start a series and go, okay, what are they doing? What do I have to do to beat this? Like, he's more ready right away to me. And so it wasn't like an amazing start to the Bucks series. It was way better last year. And the Cavs series, he was, 20-something in the game 1 that year. Like, he has figured out basically everything that's been thrown at him. Now, OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges collectively on the same team are like huge and a new thing, but he's played against the Knicks 3 times, right? I'll be curious what the Knicks try to do, because like the Cavs did not trap him until the 4th quarter of the final game of the series, right? They weren't that unique in their coverages. Some teams try switching defenses against the Pacers. Some teams think that offensive rebounding is the best way to stop the Pacers, which is something I'm like, oh, okay, the Knicks are pretty good at that. But regardless, he's just even though he started the season so bad that his season ends up being air quotes worse, he is better. And like his feel and reads are better in a way that makes it harder to stop him or stop the Pacers when he's on the floor. And he's not going to, it might just happen because he misses shots or something, but I would be stunned if there's one of those 6.5 shot stinkers to start the series.
The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes it easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, from three-pointers to steals to assists. There's so many ways to bet your favorite props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
The San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy got it done.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
5 years, $265 million, $53 million per year for Mr. Irrelevant. 3 years ago, 3 short years ago, Brock Purdy was the last pick in the NFL draft, and now he's got a $265 million contract, 5-year extension after this year. So that means 6 total years still that Brock Purdy will be under contract with the San Francisco 49ers if everything goes well. And 2030, he's your San Francisco 49ers quarterback potentially until 2030. And who knows, maybe there's another extension that's done before that contract even runs out. Croc, what do you think? $53 million per year, 5 years, $265 million. What were your initial impressions?
Now, I want to say, first, man, just great job by Brock Purdy, being the last pick in the NFL draft. Damn near undrafted, right? And defying all odds. A couple guys had to get injured for him to play. Trey Lance, number 3 overall pick. Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy who went to multiple conference championship games and a Super Bowl for the 49ers, right? So he had to get those guys kind of out the way. And then he played at a level that made this not only a conversation, but kind of the expectation of him taking over this franchise and them shoving out Trey Lance, just shoving him out, kicking him out the door, So from the day he stepped on the field, he has been awesome for the 49ers, and he's played very well. And, I think now you see the contract. I know my initial thing was to look at the numbers. Okay, 5 years, $265 million. Okay, I'm bad at math, so let me pull out my handy dandy calculator on my iPhone, and I did the math. Okay, $53 million per year. Nice, right? Nice. 53. That was roughly what we expected. Right now, there were some numbers that were thrown out. 60 million. Then you see some of the guys that are getting about 55 million or so. And then you and I talked about it. Once Josh Allen kind of signed this extension and then kind of averaged out to 55, it was like, well, you can't give Brock 55. And I know you and I felt more comfortable with like 45. And that's in like a perfect world. But in a realistic world, you knew it would land between 50 to $55 million per year. And then you look at the previous year contract. And this was one of the things I said on social media. Once you look at the Trevor Lawrence, the Tuas, the Jordan Loves, and see that they're making very similar money, and maybe even a little bit more than Brock Purdy. And at the time that Brock Purdy signed his, you're supposed to go up, right? It's supposed to be more the next year. That's what the market is, right? If these guys made X amount of dollars and they've done this with their team, then we expect our quarterback to get more than those guys. And that did not happen. It's less guaranteed money per year than the other guys. It's less money per year than the other guys. And this is at a time where you're dealing with inflation, because inflation, everything is going up. The salary cap is even going up. And the 49ers somehow were able to pay Brock Purdy a lower percentage than of their salary cap than all the other guys. So excellent job by the 49ers getting it done in a timely manner. And I'm pretty sure more details of the structure of the contract will come out, but they did an excellent job by all means with the structure of it as well.
Yeah, and look, this is the word from the agent, right? And so the first numbers you see comes from the agent side. And so whatever structure we hear from here is only going to look better probably from the 49ers side as we find out more about this contract, how much is actually fully 100% guaranteed, how much is not, when is stuff due. And but yeah, the initial impression, the first thing, like you said, Croc, good on Brock Purdy. It's awesome to see where he came from. And, we get ahead of ourselves sometimes. Like, oh, Brock Purdy's not perfect. Oh, he's not worth $53 million per year or whatever. And we're going to hear some of those things from folks that are fans of the 49ers and not fans of the 49ers and in the media. But the fact that, and look, this was going to be market value. And like you mentioned, with inflation, this is the number that it was going to have to come down to, between 50 and 55. And I think we all expected it, and it was right in there. But for Brock Purdy to be the guy who, the first time he threw a pass, he did more than any Mr. Irrelevant in history, right? Just stepping on the field and playing as Mr. Irrelevant, completing a pass is unheard of. For him to be in line to get a $265 million 5-year extension is phenomenal and pretty amazing. And we look back on the Brock Purdy story, it's only success no matter what happens from here because of what he's been able to do so far. And so good on the young man. And he's an easy guy to root for the San Francisco 49ers. You put your fandom aside, he's done just about everything right. And it's really cool to see him get that payday. And he absolutely earned it. And he was playing for well below market rate as a starter for the last couple of years. So when you factor that in, and when we see the structure, I have a feeling this is going to be a contract that looks fine for the 49ers. And he still has to perform, and especially with when it comes down to the long-term stuff and the end of his guarantees, he's going to have to perform in the next few years, and there's going to be less money for everybody else. That's just the reality. There's $50 million per year that could have gone to other players that will now not. And so can he elevate? Because that's what you pay a guy this much money to do, is elevate the rest of the team. So this story's not done being written, but good on Brock Purdy. He absolutely earned every bit of this extension.
Use the word elevate, and those were some of the comments I was getting tagged in about maybe not being able to elevate this from the situation that we saw the 49ers in last season. And because of that, people are trying to kind of knock him down and say that he shouldn't get paid. I believe this because we see this, right? He deserves it all. In the header, you put, is he worth that much? I think you deserve or you're worth whatever someone is willing to pay you.
Mm-hmm.
So 49ers were willing to pay him, $180 million guaranteed. So that is what Brock Purdy is worth. Now, there's going to be some people like others. Again, I won't say he's not worth something, but I know what I would have paid and what I wouldn't have paid. And the question that I had, right, or the what I brought up was, I think we used Sam Darnold early, like I think maybe even during the season. And it's like, hey, Sam Darnold's going to get $33 million a year or whatever. And is that what he ended up getting, like 33 a year?
I believe something like that. Yeah, close enough.
So the question that for me would have been, is Brock $30 million more per year better than Sam Darnold? Now the question is he $20 million per year better than Sam Darnold? And that right there, that's not saying that I don't think Purdy's good. I think Sam Darnold looked pretty damn good last year, right? And now people say, well, Sam Darnold was in a great situation. He's throwing to Jordan Addison and he's throwing to Justin Jefferson, and they had a run game with Aaron Jones, and the O-line was decent and the defense played well, right? And it's like, well, yeah. And when you have those things, you win a lot of games, and they won 14 games. So we found out that when Sam Darnold has a good supporting cast, he can put up 14 wins, right? Or he could be on a team that puts up 14 wins. And we've also seen the other side of it with Sam Darnold, where when he doesn't have that, it doesn't look as good. And I think we've seen both sides of the fence for Brock. And I mean, drastic sides, right? Where when he has everybody, man, it looks great. And we've seen them go to the Super Bowl and conference championship game. And maybe could have went to the Super Bowl in the conference championship game that they lost if he didn't get hurt. But we've also seen the other side of it where, man, some guys got banged up. There were some weird situations. Damn, you won 6 games? Like, that's a drastic drop-off. So I would have struggled to pay, if I would have seen what Sam Darnold got paid, I would have struggled to pay someone $20 million more per year to get, I don't want to say similar results, because the 49ers team went further and they had more postseason success than what we saw from the Vikings. But that just would have been a little bit more of a struggle for me. And that it could have been Brock Purdy, it could have been Jared Goff, it could have been whoever, right? Baker Mayfield, whoever you want to throw out there, whatever name. Like, this guy is getting paid right now. That's the guy we're talking about, Brock Purdy. So I'm using him as an example. But for any quarterback, if my team is loaded and you're good, and then I have some injuries and then you're bad, and I'm comparing you to this guy who just got paid $33 million, I'd have a tough time paying you $20 million more per year than that guy. And that's just me, though.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. Track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
The Nuggets lose in Game 7. A tough end to a pretty inspiring playoff run. AG plays, but it's not enough.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast.
I want a takeaway, a question, and an imperative for the offseason. And the question needs to be from this season of something that you're just like, I still don't know about this. But what's the biggest takeaway from you this season? What's the thing that you walk away being like, I know this?
I know they don't have enough. I know that this season it was very unenjoyable for a lot of Nuggets fans and probably Nuggets media. I think that there were a lot of down moments this year. The defense was horrific for most of the season. The team did not look like they had the star power and burst to start the year off. And I mean star power as in like the suave, the swagger. Like it just wasn't there until the playoffs started. The question I have is Michael Porter Jr., the bench, are they all good enough? Or is that all they have to be able to win another title? Yeah, I mean, that's my biggest question. It's like, do they have enough to move forward and to win another title and to make improvements on where they are now? Or are they going to stay complacent, because of cap situations or because of whatever? They have a lot of holes in the roster. I think that all showed up glaringly. And if they just had maybe 2 less holes, they could be on their way to winning another title this year. But I think that was the difference between winning and losing in Game 7 to OKC.
Okay. Ryan?
Biggest takeaway for me is that Christian Braun, I think that we have learned that Christian Braun is a player that you can trust. There are certain things in his game. He's a flawed player. Like, he's not perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say that he isn't. But I just think that if you're going to build around certain guys, if you're going to make sure that you are competitive in an environment like this one, you need guys like that. You need a whole bunch of guys that are willing to buy in, that are willing to go balls to the wall, and are going to continue to work on their game and develop it and become the best version of themselves that they can be. And so heading into this offseason where Christian is up for extension and the Nuggets are kind of at this pivot point with their core, I think that Christian needs to be at least some version of a priority for this team. There are some other things that they're going to have to figure out, but I do think that getting Christian taken care of and making sure that you're getting a good contract there, somebody that, like, you don't want to pay him too terrible, like overly much, because you know who he is. But I also think that those kinds of guys you want around for your team. The question that I have is, what does that mean for the rest of the group? And what does that mean for a team that is pretty clearly unwilling to be into the second tax apron?
That's an off-season question, sir. That's an off-season question.
Okay, then I'll make that the imperative for the offseason. How the hell do you do that? What are you going to do? But then, so for the question is, what does Michael Porter Jr. do for this team that they really need? What do they need that they can't get from a cheaper version and a cheaper role player? What does Michael Porter Jr. do that they need out there?
My big takeaway, I think, from this season is it's impossible to win when everyone's not pulling in the same direction. That was the difference to me from 2023, is everybody was like, we got a real chance to do this. And everybody was locked in they added guys. They tried to make moves to secure a deeper bench. Even if those guys didn't wind up playing in the playoffs, they helped get them some innings eaters. They had Bruce Brown, they had KCP and AG kind of locked in on the defensive side, providing everybody knew what they needed to do. Everybody was paid. Everybody understood. And I just think that nobody was on the same page this year. Joker had his best season and one of the best offensive seasons in NBA history. And I've never seen him more miserable. The entire year, he was miserable, and it exuded onto everyone and caused, I think, a lot of pressure and failure because of it. And if you want to say, yeah, because he knew how much this team sucked, I can't blame you. I can't blame you for that. That's a totally fair opinion to have. I think Jamal was not in a great place until the second half of the year, when I think he really did give them a lot over the back half of the season. I think AG was in a really rough spot emotionally, mentally, physically for a lot of the year. I think a lot of guys had questions about what the future was going to mean for them. And then you had the disconnect between Booth and Malone, and all that tension caused the entire organization was not in disarray, but it was definitely disconnected. You were not all locked in with the same mission or the same way or the agreement of how they were going to do it. And that to me meant that it was as frustrating a season as this was, which meant things like you lose to the Wizards twice, which costs you a chance at a top 3 seed. Like, they tighten up some of that stuff and they finish with a better record and they get a different lie and they're able maybe to make a conference finals, and then maybe, who knows, right? Like, the season goes differently. My question, I think, is, I still don't really know what they need around Joker. I don't think I know that right now. I think you need better defenders, but you also need shooters, but you also need another ball handler that can create, but you also need a guy that can create without him, but you also need screeners, but you also need a backup big. Like, there's just like a lot of questions I think about this, and Swipe is giving me a face.
One of the big issues that they had, like, for this playoffs was that Westbrook had good moments, to be clear, but in terms of secondary ball handling, when Jamal was being bullied and harassed by some of their, like, the OKC guards and even some of the Clippers guys, they didn't really have a great secondary ball handler, because the best moments from Russ were when he was standing in the corner and hitting threes. And he even did that tonight. Like, he was a good enough spacer in a lot of these moments that they made it work. But anytime that he really tried to do the ball handling stuff and do the creation stuff, it just wasn't good enough. So yeah, the secondary ball handler, I think, is a pretty key. And then if that's not going to be Christian, then maybe I'm wrong. And maybe
I don't think it's as simple as just like put good defenders who can shoot around Jokic. I don't think it's that simple. It's almost that simple, but it's just not quite that simple. So is there something that from the season that you still are kind of like, I'm not sure?
Look, it's not, I really don't try to sound like a broken record, but no, I really struggle to think that if a team needs more athletic defenders at the perimeter for a vertically challenged, the worst vertical ever recorded in combine history player in Nikola Jokic, you probably need some players on the perimeter that can make sure, let's not let him get that far, and then some of this is too, like Calvin Booth talked about this last summer. Maybe there's an apparatus like Harry Potter, like forgetio. Everybody just forgot what he said, but he literally said, and he said Nikola Jokic shouldn't lose a playoff series because of 3-point shooting. And then he said, if we need 3-point shooting, we'll address it at the trade deadline. It's like, well, the Nuggets didn't have 3-point shooting. They didn't make open threes in this series. And then on top of that, I think their defense was fine, Matt. Like in the playoffs, it was really good for the most part. They played zone. You'd have thought this was 2003 Syracuse, the way they were playing 2-3 zone. They had McNamara at the top of the key. They had Melo on the wing. They had my dog Hakeem on the wings. You might not remember him. He was number 1 with the Memphis Grizzlies later on in his career. They performed like they ran a legitimate 2-3 zone, and it worked. But the issue is, Matt, they just needed more players to convert baskets. And if Murray is struggling, that's one thing. But if Porter is struggling, he can't do anything else other than shoot the ball. Can't dribble, can't create, not a great rebounder, and he's not a good defender. So like he wasn't adding anything when his shooting went to the wayside. And then off the bench, Julian Strawther, but he's so young. Like it's so much pressure to ask a 29th overall pick in his second year to be the difference over the course of a series. Like that's tough for me, Matt. Like that's a very difficult predicament to be in. And you bought more land on Julian Strawther Island after last game, which you should. You reserve right to buy that. But I think it's really difficult to ask a player to do that. And Matt, I feel like I've said you need 25 to 31-year-old players who have been here, who know their role, know their job, who can slot into those spots to be around Jokic and Murray. And honestly, if they just had more of those things, I think they're in a way different situation than they are right now. And i.e. Matt Moore, you love looking at the league as a whole. You're great at this. The Indiana Pacers, Matt, what are they? They're 1 through 10, multiple options, multiple guys. You look at the Wolves, they're 1 through 8, multiple options, multiple guys. OKC, multiple options, multiple guys. Now the Knicks, they got 7. But they got 7 guys that can go. And really especially a real 6 that can go. The Nuggets in this playoffs had 5 players they could consistently depend on, and really 4 of them with Porter's injury. I just think that is just like they limited their options so badly that they got into the playoffs and it became all or nothing. So that's been my contention with this. I think they can get better. There's a way to get better. But I think Ryan, I think if you look at the NBA, and Jokic, I believe, just spoke to this in the press conference just now, you have to have people on your bench that solve problems. OKC doesn't win this series without Alex Caruso, y'all. Like, that's insane. I don't think they win without Alex Caruso, respectfully. That's just me, at least. Like, that makes the difference for me, and I think that's what the Nuggets need. They have to have another guy.